it's me, Margaret, and I am standing before you with my basket of trash. Now, what is she doing now? I know I can hear you say that. Well, I'll tell you the background of this. First of all, I woke up not too long ago and I'm like, oh, this is July. Where did half the year go? I mean, it just flew, didn't it? And whenever you get into July, what's right around the corner but school? So much of my life has revolved around school, from being a child and having to go to school to being a teacher. And then I had children and they went to school. So this kind of signals for me, it's like my new year, so to speak. So my mind started thinking about planning and preparation about our crafts. All right, think about it. When we're going to dent or crochet a gift for someone, or some sort of decoration or project or whatever, you got to start early. And I am the world's worst at planning ahead for things like that. I kind of go when the mood strikes. But I haven't been like that with other craft projects because of my job being a teacher or a Sunday school teacher or whatever. I've always collected things so that I would have a nice, good assortment of supplies for when the time came to do a craft. I know that a lot of you were in the same boat, or in the same boat that I have been in for years and years, where you've got these same kid-type responsibilities. So you might be wondering, well, Margaret, what kind of things do you save? Well, I'm going to show you. And not only am I going to show you, but in the coming months, I'm going to share with you some of the ideas that I have implemented or that I've run across that I just think are really good for you to use now, because there wasn't such a thing as Pinterest back when I was doing all this kind of stuff. You just had to think it up on your own or get it from Family Fun magazine. So first of all, what is the staple of anybody's trash craft basket? And that is the toilet paper roll. You've got to have toilet paper rolls. These things come in handy in so many different ways. You can dip them in paint and you can use them for stamping. You can use them for organizational purposes. You can create Christmas crackers out of them. You can do all kinds of millions of crafts with these. Save these, save a lot. If you have to, ask your neighbors to save them, because there's plenty of things that can be done with these. Another thing that I have in here is a meat tray, a styrofoam meat tray. Now, this could be used for a number of things too. When you are working with a large group of children, say a classroom or whatever, if you're leading a craft, this is great to use as a paint palette, where you just take little squirts of paint and you put it right there, and then they can have their own selection so they're not reaching across the table and dipping in and accidentally dripping paint everywhere. So yeah, that's a great thing. You can also use this to cut out patterns or create embellishments of some sort for something. There's also a craft you could do with this to make shrinky dinks, but we'll talk about that later. You could go on and on. So save your meat trays. The only thing I would suggest is that you wash them in hot water. Don't put them in the dishwasher because you could deform them. Their shape will change. But use hot water and plenty of soap, because it did have raw meat in it. You can also get these in produce section. Sometimes has loose things with plastic wrap around them, and also, just be on the lookout for those. Another thing, cardboard of any shape or description. Sometimes cereal boxes. The backs of cereal boxes will be brown like this, so you can use that for anything. Cardboard comes in handy. Got a hair in my mouth. Cardboard comes in handy for any number of things. Now, this happened to be about canned cat food, and this was separating the layers, so they're wonderful small sizes. This could be used for a number of things. Let's say you have gingerbread men and you make a pattern and then the kids can trace around it. Make tags out of it. You can use this for protection, so you need to have a layer underneath a painted surface, or if you're using Sharpie and it might bleed through, you've got cardboard or something like that. But this could be a lesson right here. Even if you don't know what you might use it for, but you think you might need it, save it. If not, later it can go in the recycling bin. Now, cans. Cans are usually a dime a dozen. People have lots of cans around, or you can ask your neighbors for cans. But I saved this particular one because it was a more unique size. It wasn't your typical can of peas size. This was from the Glory brand seasoned green beans, and I know that they're probably not available in all areas of the country, but it's just a wider can, not as big as a coffee can, and certainly not as small as your typical can. And that's the only reason why I saved this, because it's different. And speaking of cans, do you remember in my Dollar Tree videos, you might see these, and that is the Purolene, and this makes a little canister. So I'm thinking here, storage, a possible gift, a way to wrap a gift, perfect for shipping gifts because, you know, it's tough. Lots of things for these. Now, pet food containers are excellent if you use any sort of wet canned food for your animal. Now, this is the dog food one, and it's round. I have some too that are square. My Sunday school, my children's director at my old church loved these. They're so good for things like putting a bunch of glue in, you know, squirt you a big blob of glue and give it to each child with a paintbrush or a craft stick, a popsicle stick, or even a Q-tip. And that way, little hands that have difficulty squeezing bottles won't have any trouble getting their glue. Paint, you know, anything, beads, if you were doing some kind of bead craft and you need to contain the beads so they're not rolling all over the table and bouncing on the floor, you know, things like this. Endless use for things like this. And of course it can be used in a craft by itself, not just for craft aid, but actual crafts. And this is a can of cat food. Now I use 2 of these a day because my kitties share one in the morning and they share one at night, and then they have their crunchy food that they munch on as needed because that's how cats are. I need to warn you about this. Cans are lined with a plastic. Can you see that white in there? And this is not good plastic either, by the way. This has got that PBA, that bad stuff. Is that what it's called? Yeah, the bad plastic, whatever it's called. And there's a big campaign right now going to get all that kind of plastic out of our cans. There are a few brands. Eden Organics, for example, does not use plastic lining in theirs, or if they do, it doesn't have the bad chemicals. But anyway, to make a long story short, plastic holds smells, and nothing smells worse than a can of cat food. So what I do is not only wash these with soap and water, but in the morning, say, I'll wash it out with soap and water. I'll put it over on the far side of the sink. And then I have some Mrs. Meyer's. It's a cleaner, kind of a concentrated cleaner. I guess you could use anything, 409, whatever. And I fill it up about this much, just you know, about a quarter of this container, and let it sit, kind of swish it around, and then I just let it sit there, and it will absorb that smell. The bad smell goes away, and so now if I smell it, I can smell nothing but Mrs. Meyer's. So that's an easy way to get rid of that. And then I recycle that cleaner. So when I feed the kitties in the nighttime, I will wash out the nighttime can and then rinse it, and then I pick up the other that had the cleaner in it and I pour it in there and let that one sit overnight. And I just kind of rotate those out so that they smell good. And then after I get a good amount saved up, I won't do that anymore. It'll just go in the recycling. But it keeps it from being stinky, and that's what you want. These little cans have very sharp edges, so don't give them to kids until you've covered those edges in some way. And then we have K-cups from the Keurig brewer for coffee cups. First of all, let me say that my favorite coffee that I use is an organic coffee called Gorilla Coffee. I order it from Amazon and it's on Subscribe and Save. But I need to up my frequency of Subscribe and Save because I often run out. Those coffees are made without this plastic. It's just the coffee in a filter and a little plastic thing on top. So you don't get these cups. But because I don't get them often as I need them, we have to go to Kroger and buy ourselves some coffee to hold us over until the next Subscribe and Save shipment. They come in, of course, black and white, depending on the brand that you buy, and it's pretty easy to get to it, although there is a gadget that's out there that will slice off this top, and then you just drop out the coffee grinds, which is really great. Now to clean it out, I just poke a hole with a knife and then just kind of pull it off and then pry out the filter with the grinds. And you can reuse your coffee grinds. There's lots of different ways you can reuse your coffee grinds. I put mine in the garden. But you can still see here that some of the filter is left, so I'll have to go back and clean these little edges up a little better before I use them. I don't have anything in mind right now of what I want to do with these things. I just see potential in them, and so I thought, you know, I'm going to save these for a little while, see what I can come up with. Now, the thing to note about these is that the way a coffee Keurig machine works is you close it down and it punctures a hole in the top and it punctures a hole in the bottom. So you couldn't use this to pour glue in or whatever if you were, you know, for classroom management purposes. So you'd have to put a little piece of duct tape or something like that down in the bottom, I guess, if you wanted to do that. But we'll see. Now, here's the deal about crafting with recyclables, is you have to look at it with new eyes. And my husband thinks I'm crazy because he just can't see what I see. For example, this. And if you have his eyes, you would say, oh, the Olanders had a rotisserie chicken recently. Yes. Anything else? Do you see anything else? What else do you see? I see a spaceship. Don't you kind of see a spaceship? And also I see a terrarium, and if you don't know what that is, these were really popular in the 70s. I remember as a kid there were a lot of people that had it. That's actually a little self-sustaining plant community that you create your own little ecosystem in there. You put your dirt and your water and your plants, and then when you close the top, it has a very similar effect of earth. You have evaporation, condensation, the moisture comes down, it keeps it. It's really good. So only people from the 70s and or science teachers probably know what a terrarium is, but it's fun, and I was a science teacher, so there you go. But anyhow, I see all kinds of potential with this, and even if I didn't want to use it in this state, the separate pieces of this clear and the black could be used for different things as well. But I want you to look at the bottom of this. Isn't that cool? I see a tire tread. Now, I have no idea what craft I would want to do with a tire tread, but I sure am intrigued. So regardless, I'm going to hang on to it. If I have no use for it, it can get recycled. But for right now, through these fall and winter months, I'm going to hang on to it. And then look for bags that could be used as gift bags that you can decorate. This came from the company store. It's a cosmetics type store, usually found in outlet places, which is exactly where this happened to be. Obviously, I made a purchase. But this bag was plain. It doesn't say anything on it. It was in really good condition, so this would be something worth saving for a possible gift craft bag. So just be on the lookout for things like that. So this is an easy way to plan ahead for those fall activities that you know are coming. This is something you can do without immersing yourself in it right now, but you can kind of think ahead for those activities. Yarn people really need to be doing this because there's just only so many hours, and I know just about every yarn crafter has probably had the best of intentions yet not finished a gift or some such decoration or activity that they had planned to do. So now is a great time to be looking through those Ravelry queues and Pinterest and everything. So, but speaking of yarn, I finished a project. I did a Barley Hat, and yes, I know I'm late to the party on the Barley Hat, that so many people have done it. It was fun, it was easy. I obviously I don't have as much yarn time these days as I've been having in the past, so it takes me so long to get to this. But anyway, I did a good job. It was easy. It was a fun little pattern. For those of you who don't know, it's by Tin Can Knits, and it's actually a little garter stitch panel right here, while the rest of it is stockinette. And actually, it's just a very basic hat. That's really the only thing that makes it unique. This is that Red Heart, what's it called? I don't remember, those color changing yarns that slow color changes. This is called Echo was the colorway, but I enjoyed working with it, and I enjoyed that pattern. It's a great free pattern. So while you're in the planning mode of what you're going to be doing and for gifts or whatever, I want to share this little clip with you. When I went to Dallas last month, I did not include this clip when I was showing you all the things that I did because I was just running out of time. I like to keep my videos, you know, around 20 minutes, never over 30. And so I cut this clip, but now would be a great time to show it to you because it sparks creativity. Here's some ideas for some gifts that you may like to try to replicate. These were just a bunch of great hats that I saw, lots of different styles, and some characters are familiar, some are more original. But I thought you might like to look at that and somebody might get a clever idea. So I do have plans for the future, but that's all I've got to report for this week. So stay tuned. Talk soon. Bye.